Welcome back to the Willadelphia show. As always, we have lots to talk about today. First off, the banner is raised and week one is in the books for the Eagles. My thoughts on the Birds' performance against the Cowboys. Plus, I give my take on the Jalen Carter's Spitgate and an all-new Eagles signing. Then, have the Phillies rebounded from a horrifying Mets series, or is this just more false hope? We'll break down the team's recent stretch and what it means for the pivotal upcoming series against New York. Welcome in, everybody, and thank you for joining us once again. My name is Will Barbera, and let's talk Eagles football. The Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Dallas Cowboys by a final score of 24-20 in the NFL season opener on Thursday night. I understand that there is always going to be some sloppiness in the first game of a season, especially with the way the preseason is now, where none of the starters really ever see the field, you know what I mean? But this game was ridiculously sloppy by the Eagles, like so sloppy. It all started with the Spitgate. Not even 6 seconds into the game, before there had even been a play from scrimmage, Eagles defensive tackle Jalen Carter was ejected from the game for spitting on Cowboys quarterback Dak Prescott. At first glance, I was so pissed off, dude. Like, what are you doing? You selfish SOB. You're our best defensive player. I don't really think that's a conversation either. And you just put the team in jeopardy before the season even started, before a play from scrimmage even happened. So the game goes on, and of course, the Cowboys just run the ball right at where Carter would have been for basically the entire first half. Cowboys running back Javonte Williams had a great debut with Dallas because the biggest piece to the Eagles' run defense was missing. Then we have this delay at 10:30 at night due to inclement weather, and it's only then, 3 hours after the altercation between Carter and Prescott occurred, that we were shown a different angle of Dak Prescott spitting in Carter's direction first. Now, there are several things about this that piss me off. One, how in the hell did it take 3 hours after the fact for that footage to be shown on TV? Once they showed the alternative footage, it was clear to me that Dak spit at Carter, looked at him and grinned, and then Carter walked up to him and retaliated. There's got to be $100 million in camera equipment in that stadium for that game. And somehow, it took 3 hours for the broadcast to show the world what actually happened between the two players. Could it be that the broadcast didn't show what happened because it goes against a heavy Dallas audience? Dude, anything is possible when Dallas is involved. I think if any other quarterback on any other team had done what Prescott did, the broadcast would have showed it right away. 2, all the criticism Carter got for all that time because people thought he had done what he did completely unprovoked is so annoying to me. I saw people online calling him a piece of you-know-what. I saw people saying things like typical Georgia player. But then we see what actually kicked this whole thing off, right? And no one's got anything to say about Prescott's actions. But Dak's a good guy. He went to Mississippi State. He's bald. He can't have started it. This brings me to my third point. 3, I see some people out there who are still saying that Jalen Carter handled this poorly. Would I have liked him to stay in the game? Yeah. Did he handle this poorly? Nope. Wrong. Incorrect. Not a chance. Look, dude, I'm a man, all right? I'm willing to bet that a lot of other people watching this podcast are men. I actually don't know if there is something that is more disrespectful in this world than spitting at or on someone. I also don't know if there's an easier way to get a reaction out of someone than spitting at or on them. Here's the part that I need you to listen carefully to, okay? I don't care if Dak's spitting was intentional or not. If I perceive someone to have spit at me in any way, shape, or form, the next thing I'm going to do as a man is take my right hand and throw it at the side of your head, okay? Dak spit at him, grinned, and then complained like a 4-year-old when Jalen one-upped him. You spit at me, I'll do you one better. I'll spit right on you, dude. I'll hock a real nice loogie for you. In a perfect world, Jalen has the head on his shoulders to brush it off and use it as fuel. But as a man, I understand Jalen's actions, and I think that mine would have been similar if I was in his shoes. And if you disagree, I want you to do me a favor, all right? Go outside and walk up to the first man that you see and go, hey, and then spit on the ground right in front of them. And then I want you to grin and take 2 steps backwards. And then see if you don't wake up in a hospital bed with all of your teeth missing. Like, at the very least, that guy is going to press you for being disrespectful if you don't get your jaw broken. So while I'm not mad about Carter's actions, I was mad that we lost our best defensive player for the game, for the rest of the game, against our biggest rival before he had ever even played a snap. It is always annoying to play the what-if game, right? But I think there's a good chance that if Carter plays, the Eagles record at least 1 sack, if not more. And I'm willing to bet that he would have been real nice to have on the field for both of Dallas's rushing touchdowns. Maybe we hold one of those touchdown drives to a field goal. It's all hearsay, but it's hard to imagine that Jalen Carter would have not impacted this game had he not been ejected. Which brings me to my last point. Why in the world was Jalen Carter ejected? Listen, even if they thought it was unprovoked, which again, it clearly was provoked. I've been watching the NFL for 25 years. I've seen so many people get away with spitting or throwing punches and things getting out of hand without any pushback from the referees. None whatsoever. Hell, last season against New Orleans, Devontae Smith got knocked out of a football game, and some scumbag, right after delivering the hit that knocked him out, stands up, spits right on him. Not so much as a slap on the wrist from the NFL, not a peep from the officials. But we can eject the Eagles' best defensive player before the season even really starts because we don't have all the information and because it'll help Dallas's chances to win, right? Like, the NFL isn't slick. I think we win that game by 2 touchdowns if Jalen Carter plays. You're not slick. And now I hear the league is considering suspending him for another game. Dak won't get so much as a bad comment from the media about this either. This is just another way that everyone tries to bring down the Philadelphia Eagles. Speaking of trying to bring down the Philadelphia Eagles, let's talk about the offense. I thought that Jalen Hurts played an amazing game, and I see so many people online who are trashing his performance, using his statistics to back it up. I hate that we live in this culture where you have to put up MVP-type numbers to be considered a good quarterback. The man was literally the best player on the field for the entirety of the game. Don't really care what you have to say in retaliation to that. That's a fact. Dallas had no answer for him on the ground. And even though they didn't throw a whole lot, they couldn't stop him that way either. He had 4 incompletions. Jalen Hurts is the definition of a winning quarterback. He will do no more than exactly what it takes to win the game. And that's what he did on Thursday night. Do I want to see the passing game get more involved? Absolutely, I do. Do I want it so badly that I'm okay if we lose because the team threw the ball more and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith got their statistics? Absolutely not. I'm done with the debating and the discourse. If you don't think Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback, you're a TikTok football fan. You aren't actually watching the games. You, go ahead, take your ringless MVPs. I'll take the winner every day of the week and twice on Sundays. Other than that, I thought the defense was much improved from the first half to the second half. They allowed 0 points after halftime, which of course was aided by a couple of CeeDee Lamb drops, but nonetheless. And they did force a fumble on Miles Sanders in the third quarter right before the weather delay. Jahad Campbell forced a fumble, and he looked pretty good out there for somebody who was playing in his first NFL regular season game. I'm really excited to see what the defense looks like against Kansas City next week, especially since we should, I repeat, should have our best defensive player back out on the field. Also, there will more than likely be a new face out there in week 2 with the Eagles defense. The Eagles announced after their win on Friday that they have signed defensive end Zadarius Smith to a 1-year deal worth $9 million. When I first saw this, my reaction was, I actually can't believe that Zadarius Smith was a free agent. I understand this guy turns 33 in a few days, but this is a guy who's averaged 8.5 sacks over his 10-year career and had 9 sacks between both the Cleveland Browns and Detroit Lions last season. This dude is wicked consistent when he's healthy, and I think this is a great addition to the Eagles' pass rush. It does more than likely make Azeez Ojulari the odd man out in the group, as he was a healthy scratch against Dallas after coming over from the Giants this offseason. Vic Fangio is using a heavy dose of Joshua Uche and Patrick Johnson when starters Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt weren't on the field, so Smith is an immediate upgrade over either of those players. Howie stays busy, and the rich get richer once again. The Eagles play the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl rematch next Sunday, September 14th at 4:25 from Arrowhead Stadium. Now, let's shift gears and talk Phillies baseball. Since the last episode I put out of this podcast, the Phillies got swept by the Mets at Citi Field before coming home and taking 3 of 4 from the Atlanta Braves, then going back on the road and taking 2 of 3 from the team with the best record in baseball, the Milwaukee Brewers, and then winning 2 out of 3 against the Miami Marlins. Tonight, they start a very, very important 4-game series against the New York Mets. They are currently up 7 games in the National League East. Now, here is my big question for all of you Philadelphia Phillies fans that are currently watching. Is this run that they've gone on since being swept by the Mets, is this them waking up pissed off after losing to their biggest rival? Or is this just another false hope let down in October waiting to happen? I think that this is all just false hope, and here's why. I love the Phillies, but they are starting to get into Philadelphia 76ers territory. Now, some of you might be saying to yourself, Will, I don't really know what you mean when you say that. For the past several years, the Philadelphia 76ers have been a really talented team that has the ability to make a deep playoff run and win a championship, but continues to let the city of Philadelphia down at the same time of year, every year. I've seen Phillies fans say things like, maybe the Mets just have our number and we won't see them in the playoffs. And then I hear people like Joe Giglio bring up the fact that the 2008 Philadelphia Phillies, who won the World Series, went 7-11 against the Mets in the regular season. How naive can you be? Seriously, I want to know the answer. Don't you guys get it at this point? Because the Mets are the Phillies' kryptonite, we are going to see them in the playoffs. The Phillies won't get that lucky that the one team that they can't seem to beat won't see them in the most important time of the season. And I think it's pretty ridiculous to suggest, after watching this team let you down for the past 3 years, that all they've needed is a little bit of luck to get over this monumental hump. And part of me also thinks that if they do somehow get that lucky and another team eliminates the Mets before we have a chance to play them, they'll somehow think it's a cakewalk to the World Series. And then they'll lose to a team that they are actually capable of beating. You guys know how I'm taking a Philadelphia 76ers fan approach to this playoff run. They need to earn my trust before I get excited. Way to do that? Sweep the Mets this week. Take 3 out of 4 from the Mets this week. Beat them in a playoff series on your way to a World Series championship. But I have too many battle scars to just go willy-nilly running into this all excited. Like the last 3 years of my life haven't happened. But the people that are like, they just have our number, we may not even see them in the playoffs. I think you need to grow up and realize that this team has never been that lucky. Even in 2022, we had to get through Atlanta. That was going to be this monumental hump that no one really thought we were going to be able to do. We did that, and we still couldn't win a ring. It's going to take a lot of convincing between now and the end of the season for me to be optimistic about this team in the playoffs. And I don't think any of it is going to be enough to swing me. Also doesn't help that Trey Turner and Alec Bohm got placed on the injured list today. Turner with a grade 1 hamstring strain and Bohm with a shoulder injury that no one knew about. Neither of them are expected to miss playoffs. But they sure did pick one hell of a time of year to get hurt. And now the Phillies have their biggest series of the season without 2 starting infielders. It only gets harder for the Phillies. It only gets harder. Now, staying on the topic of Phillies, who things have been hard for over the past couple years. I am done with Nick Castellanos. Completely done. They could DFA him tomorrow and I wouldn't care. I remember the day we signed him in free agency from Cincinnati. My friends and I were all fired up thinking about what he could accomplish in this lineup at Citizens Bank Park. Never in my life did I think that it would get to where we are now. Over the last 28 games, Castellanos is hitting a measly 180 with 1 home run and 2 runs batted in. He is also literally the worst defensive outfielder in all of baseball with a -12 defensive run saves this season. So naturally, Tomper decides that he is not playing well enough to be in the lineup every day. So basically, the entire outfield is a righty-lefty platoon. That hasn't worked even a little bit. Casty actually hits right-handers better than lefties as a right-handed hitter, and there is no one else in the lineup who also does that on their same side of the plate. So really, it's hard to justify playing him at all. And then on top of it, instead of taking the blame and being understanding about the fact that he just flat out isn't good enough right now, he decided to complain about Rob Thompson's decision, saying it's frustrating not being able to play every day. I've gone back and forth on Nick since he became a Philly, okay? At first, I thought his personality was a perfect fit for the city. And then I realized quite quickly that this guy might be the streakiest hitter I've ever seen in my entire life. There's stretches like he had in 2023 where he hit 3 home runs in the final 2 games to clinch in the series against the Braves in the playoffs. And then there are stretches like in that same playoff run where he had 1 hit in the entire championship series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. During every cold streak during that time, Tomper stuck with him and wouldn't take him out of the lineup. And it hurt the team. I'm not the biggest Rob Thompson fan you'll ever meet, but I commend him for finally trying something new with the same core to see if that will help this team win in the most important games of the season. And to his credit, outside of Castellanos, it's really working well right now. Over the past 2 weeks, Brandon Marsh is hitting .353, Max Kepler is hitting .308, and Harrison Bader, who the Phillies acquired at the trade deadline from the Twins, is hitting .414. How in the world can Castellanos complain about not playing when those are the numbers of his fellow teammates in the outfield? It's really frustrating to me knowing that this guy is a head case who cares more about contributing than he does the team winning. Or at least that's the impression I've gotten from his remarks, not just during this time, but throughout the season. Don't forget that this is the same guy who was suspended for a game by Tomper for making an inappropriate comment after being removed from the outfield in the 9th inning of a close game a few months ago. There is nothing on this planet that kills a team more than the selfishness of a player. And I'm beginning to think that Nick Castellanos is sucking the life out of a more than talented enough baseball team. It'll be interesting to see how his play affects the team for the rest of the season and the playoffs for the Phillies. But if it were up to me, I'd DFA him right now and bring Otto Kemp back up here for the rest of the season and the playoffs. At least that way, we know we have someone who cares about helping the team win in any way that they can. Can't say the same about Nick Castellanos. Thank you, everyone, for listening. That is our show today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Do you think Jalen Carter should have been ejected? What were your takeaways from the Eagles-Cowboys game? Do you think the Phillies can beat the Mets in a playoff series? And what is your opinion on Nick Castellanos? Let me know all of that and more down in the comments section. I've been Will Barbera. This has been the Willadelphia Show. We'll see you next time. Go Birds and Kabooyah!